Welcome to Lesson 13 of Humanities 1101 at West Georgia Technical College. This lesson covers a brief overview of the contributions made to the humanities by cultures in Africa, the Middle East, and the Islamic world. We separate out the Islamic world because it geographically covers so much of the world today, including huge portions of Asia, as well as the more commonly known nations in Africa and the Middle East. We will first discuss the art of Africa and the cultural significance of African masks, before then discussing the contributions of the Islamic Golden Age and the art, architecture, and religion of Islam. There are also many places and ways in which the arts and culture of Africa intersect with the arts and culture of the Islamic world. One example would be the Sahaba Shrine, built in the 7th century on Massawa Island in the country of Eritrea, which is commonly believed to be the first mosque in Africa. African art can also refer at times to the art created by the African diaspora, such as art in various Caribbean nations like Jamaica, and early art created by African slaves brought to the Americas. However, for this lesson, we will be focusing on art that originates on the continent of Africa. African art is often categorized into various forms of craftsmanship: masks, pottery, jewelry, textiles, and wood sculptures, although there are some metal sculptures in various regions. As a result of many of these items being made from perishable goods, many historical pieces of art have been lost. Some elements of African art are related to traditional tribal beliefs and religious practices. Some are associated with Christianity, especially in Ethiopia, while others are art for the sake of art's sake. African masks are an excellent representation of art resulting from regional spiritual beliefs. These masks are often symbolic, depending on the tribe and the ritual being performed. They are not theatrical in the way of Greek or Japanese masks, but are more closely related to a spiritual tool of ritual worship. They are intricate works of art, typically made of wood, but sometimes from stone or other materials. Sometimes they are painted, sometimes not. They are usually more abstract, and a key feature of African art historically has been this abstract style. It is seldom done in the style of realism. As a result, African art has had a significant impact on the modern art we will study in the next lesson, influencing well-known Western painters such as Matisse and Picasso. Religion in Africa has been heavily influenced, or rather, religion in Africa has heavily influenced various artistic forms, philosophy, and even architecture. We will discuss the influence of Islam in a moment, but it is important to highlight that in between regional spiritual beliefs among the many peoples of Africa and Islam, there has also been a Christian influence in Africa, evidenced by churches such as the Church of Our Lady Mary of Zion, which is an Ethiopian Orthodox Tewahedo church in Axum, Ethiopia, which claims to be in possession of the ancient Judeo-Christian relic, the Ark of the Covenant. The cultural influence is so strong that Axum has been featured even in mainstream media, such as its representation in the Indiana Jones film Raiders of the Lost Ark. Many elements of the modern world originated in Africa, the Middle East, and specifically through Arabic and Islamic influence. For instance, the numbers that we use are thanks to Arabic scholars, whose version of numerals and mathematics was far more user-friendly than the numerals given to us by the Romans. We owe our thanks to Muhammad ibn Musa al-Khwarizmi for the invention of algebra in the 9th century. Al-Khwarizmi was a mathematician and astronomer. Algebra was the precursor to calculus, and calculus is, of course, one of the foundations of physics, without which we would not have flight, skyscrapers, or many other aspects of virtually anything that requires the skills of an engineer. And while Al-Khwarizmi was a scientist who studied the stars and mathematics, in the more traditional sense, he was a well-rounded scholar in the most humanities sense of the word. We also owe things like modern medicine to the Islamic Golden Age, which lasted from 790 to 1258 CE, during which time the toothbrush, surgery, drug trials, anesthesia, and much more were invented. As a reminder, Europe was still heavily embroiled in the Dark Ages during this period. In addition to medicine, math, and science, other things to have come from this renaissance of the Islamic world include the drinking of coffee, beautiful oriental carpets, and good smelling bars of soap. Both during and after the Islamic Golden Age, literature in the form of prose and poetry, art, and architecture flourished throughout the Arabic world. Examples of these include texts such as 1001 Nights, a collection of folklore from throughout the region. The tales are woven together by the theme of a newlywed royal couple. The king, fearing he would lose the love of his wife, murders a wife each day and weds a new wife each night. Eventually, he meets his match in a queen who stays alive by telling him stories for 1001 nights. You would be familiar with many of these stories, or at least recognize elements of them. The most famous is the story of Aladdin, but you may also know of the stories of Sinbad and the Fisherman and the Jinni. Even the tale of 1001 Nights has been turned into numerous books of young adult fiction, novels, and movies. Perhaps, however, the most recognizable visual aspect of Islamic culture is architecture. From towering minarets to exquisite mosaics and domed roofs, Islamic architecture has endured in many of its original forms even to the modern age. Ancient buildings, such as mosques, often look very similar to new buildings. Colorful mosaics that decorated ancient buildings have made their way into popular Western architectural trends. And no lesson regarding the Islamic world would be complete without a brief overview of Islam itself. Founded in the 6th and 7th centuries by the Prophet Muhammad, Islam is a topic hotly debated today within Western circles. There are many branches and variations of Islam today, just as there are many branches of both Judaism and Christianity, with a wide range of beliefs. These core tenets of Islam, however, are called the 5 pillars. They are the profession of faith, prayer, charity, fasting, and pilgrimage to Mecca. And these are universal and come from the Islamic holy text, which is called the Quran. In some Islamic countries, such as Tajikistan in Asia, ancient Persian and Indian beliefs from groups such as the Zoroastrians have combined with Islam to create a more unique branch that combines mysticism with Islam. In other areas, such as in Saudi Arabia, Islam is highly traditional and exerts influence over the daily life of all people, but particularly women, while in other areas is considerably more freedom. Africa, the Middle East, and the Islamic world have made incredible contributions to the arts and culture of the rest of the world, contributions which continue to impact many areas of life today. It is safe to say that without the Islamic Golden Age, in particular, and the cultural contributions made not only in Africa but by Africans and those of African descent around the globe, the world we know today would not even be remotely the same.